Getting your YouTube lighting set up is actually pretty easy. I'm going to go over and show you how to do it in just a few easy steps right now. Now in this session, we're just going to go over a very simple YouTube setup. One of the cool things about film is that you can create totally different stories based on your lighting. For example, when you go camping, you go out with all your friends and you try to tell horror stories and you always go like this. That's lighting. Lighting is supposed to tell a story. And so one of the cool things you can do with your YouTube setup is you want it to just be something simple that makes you look professional and makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. So as you can see, in this situation, I have a hat on. The light is coming from directly above. This is just the generic lighting that's coming from the garage here. So it's just direct overhead light coming down. And as you can see, that's casting a dark shadow directly onto my face. So there's no light in my eyes right now. It is just completely shadow. Now, if I flip my hat around, you can see that there's a little bit more light on my face. But again, we still have the same problem. The light going onto my eyes is actually creating a raccoon look. I've got dark circles around my eyes, and that's because the light is coming straight down. Now it is important to note that there is a light over there that is pointed just enough at me that it might create a catch light in my eyes and just brighten up my eyes enough to be able to see my eyes. But as you can tell, this is just not enough. So the main reason why I would say invest in at least one light, one video light, is because you need to have something that is coming directly at you that is purpose driven. You need to have a light that is able to fill up your face. As you might also have noticed, there's a lot of grain in this shot. There's a lot of texture. The reason why there's a lot of grain is because the camera's having to work extra hard right now to try and see me. So one of the nice things about light is it creates enough power so that you get smoothness in your image. All right, so what I've done just now is I've killed that blue strip that's behind me, and I turned on this little book lamp. In the film industry, they call that book lamp a practical. So I just went back and looked at the footage, and I noticed that everything was out of focus. Now that's another key thing that we should talk about here. Light actually helps your camera focus. So you'll notice that the background doesn't focus. The light that's over my shoulder here is where it was grabbing focus. A lot of modern cameras will be able to do eye tracking, but in the dark, it's actually looking for contrast. So in that instance, the light over my shoulder had a contrast point. The light and the shadow from the light created a contrast point. The camera was able to grab focus there, and then that's why everything looked in focus back there. So the more light you have on the foreground, the more likely you are going to be in focus to your camera. Okay, so now I've just created another light. This light is my actual hair light. Now you might have noticed that the top of my head is a little bit brighter. The reason why is because I have a light. I'm going to go ahead and take my iPhone here. Okay. Now as you can see, I have 3 lights up there. The 2 that are on the side are meant to cast light down the set, and the third one that's in the middle is meant to actually just create a hair light on the top of my head. It is also going down the set a little bit and creating it a little bit more light, which makes the lamp right there look like it's illuminating the set. In the film world, they call that motivating light. Okay, now like I said, I like to do things a piece at a time, so one light at a time. So now I've turned on those other 2 lights that are on the side, and you can see that they're lighting up the set. That one right there is lighting up that plant. That one over there is just lighting up down the wall. All right, and so for this last little bit here, I have my camera, my microphone, another camera right there, and then I've got a light. So let's go ahead and turn this light on right here. So this light that I have right here is a cheap Godox SL60. This light is about 150 bucks, and it's about another $100 for the softbox. The softbox is what creates that soft light. A lot of times you'll hear people say that you want to have window light. Window light is nice typically because you have a large window. Now when you have a large window, that means that's a large light source. And usually that large light source ends up creating a really soft gradient of light across your face. That ends up having a much more pleasing look than just a really hard, sharp focus. So when you're lighting from the front, you really want to have a softbox or something to just soften that light when it's coming down onto you. And finally, turn my hat around. So now you can see just tilting my head down like this creates that shadow. But if I lift my hat up like this, I'm able to see my eyes. And so If you're gonna wear a hat in your scene, make sure that you're mindful that you're kicking your chin up so that you're able to create light in your eyes. Otherwise, you just look dead. Now, you'll notice that there's light in my eyes. In the film world and in photography, they call these catch lights. If they don't have catch lights, then typically your subject ends up looking dead in the eyes. It's common for the photos to not turn out very well, and a lot of people don't know why, and one of the reasons why is because there's no catch lights. In photography, you can fake it. You can add catch lights in after in Photoshop, but in video, you can't. And so you're gonna wanna have catch lights in your eyes. So make sure that you're aware and that you keep your head up if you're going to wear a hat. If you're not gonna wear a hat, then just make sure that you do have catch lights in your eyes and that there isn't that dead look. Lastly, I'm gonna turn off the overhead lights, which should finalize this set for me. Now, you might not have noticed much of a difference, but for me, there's a little bit more shadow here. It's a little bit darker under the chin. There's not as much reflection. And so that light that was overhead was just creating kind of a general fill. I want to make sure that I have shadows in my shot. So if you're somebody who wants to have softer light and not to have this chiseled kind of look, what you can do is buy a desk or a table that is white so that it reflects the light back, and that'll create a fill for you. A lot of people will add lights on the sides and do other things. I actually wanted to have kind of a darker look, and so for me, I just have the singular source up here and then the singular source behind me that's creating that separation on my head. Again, if you want to have that softer look, I would recommend having more lights or more reflective surfaces around you. Having said that, I know we're not supposed to be talking about audio in this section, but as far as reflective surfaces, make sure your surfaces aren't echoey. You want to have audio that is clean and clear. Now, just off of screen here, I have a blanket, which is absorbing sound for me, and it's keeping that echo from this room. And yes, you want to make sure that your blanket is colored either white or black. Now, the reason for this is if you have a black curtain, it's going to suffocate the light, and if you have white, it's going to bounce for you. So again, if you want to have more light, add white. If you want to have subtraction, add black. Now, one of the reasons why is because of color. Now, let's say that you have red over here. This red color right here is going to bounce back on you, and you're going to have this weird red accent on your face. In the movie industry, you'll notice that everybody is wearing black. One of the reasons why is because you're supposed to disappear in the set. And so just imagine if somebody was wearing red and they were standing right next to Tom Cruise in a scene, and for some reason Tom Cruise was glowing red, they'd be super pissed off at whoever it was that wore the red shirt that day. That red needs to go away. You need to wear black or white. More than likely black. Now, I know you can barely see me on this shot here, but I have my computer monitor just off to the side, and I just wanted to accent and show you what I'm talking about with the red. This desktop monitor here has a red glow on it right now. And as you can see, it's tinting my face red. I subtracted the main monitor light and left this red light on just to show you. You don't want to do this. You want to make sure that you cancel this out and make it something that's a little bit lighter. See, this is a white shot right here. Now you can see my face, it's white. Now, if I added this white with my light, that would be two light sources and that would look nice. Having said that, this red glow looks terrible. Now, another thing that you want to keep in mind is your framing. You'll notice that I set myself up here in the center, but a lot of times what you want to do is you want to create a rule of thirds. You want your eye line to be right along the bar, or at least close to it. You want to make sure that there's enough headroom for the top. You want to make sure there's enough room down here at the bottom. In TV, they call this the lower third. This is where they typically run subtitles. This is where they put nameplates. Typically, you'll see people say, subscribe to our channel right here. That's that space where you want to do all of your text or graphics. Now, you'll notice that when you're watching the news, a lot of times all of a sudden the camera will shift like this, and now you've got this space over here. This is the third, so that you have over here a place for the graphic. Now, it's important to know that you put enough space over here for graphics or call-outs or testimonials or whatever it is that you want to do. So make sure that you pre-think out your shots. If you want to have something where you're in the third right here and you have the other third over here, the space for your graphics, make sure you pre-plan out those shots. Now, one of the things that a lot of people do is they shoot in 4K. One of the nice things about 4K is people only watch videos in 1080, believe it or not, on YouTube. And so if you have a 4K camera, you can punch in. And so right now I'm shooting this in 4K, and if I needed to, I could adjust the scene and crop in a little bit to make it look like it's a 1080 video. So for example, if I shot this way back here, you'll notice that my audio sounds terrible now. But if I wanted to, I could crop in like this. Now, do you see how this looks pretty much the same as the other shot? However, all I've done is crop in on this shot. So get to know your composition. Make sure that you know your eye line, enough space down here for the lower thirds. If you need to create a title space so you can put your graphic right here. Make sure that you keep those surfaces that are next to you either black or white. Make sure that you have clean audio around you. Make sure that you have light that is creating catch lights in your eyes. Make sure that you have enough separation between you and the background so that there is a depth of field. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch on cameras right now, but right now you'll notice that I'm in focus and the background behind me is out of focus. That's called depth of field. Now, if you have an iPhone or something like that, it's not going to be able to create much of a depth of field without creating a fake depth of field. But if you have an actual DSLR, you can do something that's called lowering the aperture. If you can set your aperture to a low number, it'll create that shallow depth of field like you were seeing in the background here. By creating a shallow depth of field like I'm doing here, it creates visual interest for me so that I'm the person that you are paying attention to rather than whatever it is that's happening in the background. And again, like I had said in a previous video, make sure you keep your background clean. Make sure it looks pleasant. Speaking of which, ta-da, I added the blue back in. So let's go back in a little bit more in depth here. For your lighting, you want to make sure that you have pleasant light. Pleasant light comes from taking things a step at a time. If you can't afford to go out and purchase lighting, what I want you to do is go around and look at different light sources in your house. What can you find that will actually create enough fill light so that your face is lit up and that it's not just light that's coming straight down from the ceiling? Like you saw, the light that comes straight down from the ceiling ends up creating those nasty looking raccoon eyes. So make sure that you create a nice flattering light. You can take a lamp, you could use a window, but just make sure that it's coming forward and not coming straight down. Secondly, if you can, take a second light and put it behind you so that it's pointed towards you like the light is that's back there. Oftentimes that light that's behind you will create enough of a little bit of a rim light on the side of you that it will create separation between you and the background. As I had said before, the one that's behind me is not really doing much because I have a very powerful light in front of me here. But if you don't have that and you just have a lamp, you'll be surprised to find that that lamp, with that lamp behind you, you'll actually see that little glow behind you. So in my case, you'll notice that I have here, you'll notice I've got some light right here, and that light that you're seeing on the top of my head is actually coming from that hair light that I have up there. And again, the hat canceled out the light. Now you can't see my eyes, making me look like I'm dead in my eyes. And this ends up creating a really ugly shot. It makes me look dead in my eyes and makes people look unattractive. So don't do this. Make sure that you're keeping your chin up if you're gonna wear a hat. Now, yes, this does sound like it's a lot to think about, but really once you have it set up, this is actually a very easy thing to control. My light just stays put right there. My other lights are actually screwed into the wall up there. They're not going anywhere. So this set works for me every single time. I don't have any problems with constantly having to adjust settings on the camera, having to adjust settings on the lights. These things just stay put and they do their jobs. But yes, trying to figure this stuff out in the first place will take some work. Another fun thing, you'll notice that that little light back there happens to be glowing. Right there, you'll notice it's glowing right there. The reason why that light is glowing is because it broke. It actually used to have a glass shell around it and it fell off the other day. This is what it looked like. So late last night we were just sitting around watching TV and all of a sudden we heard this loud crash bang sound, and this is what happened. My lamp fell over. Not the best moment. So what happened is these lights that I purchased up here, they're just kind of cheap LED knockoffs. And so my boys helped me make this to create kind of sort of a barn door effect. And so I put those over my lights to try and focus the light. And that fell over, and that's what hit the lamp, and that's what caused it to fall off and break into a million pieces. And now I've just got a broken light back there. Yes, I'm gonna break it a little bit more and make it look like it's just a stand. But this is why I can't have nice things. Again, just to recap, got the foreground light here. This thing is pointed at me. I have it on purpose, creating a little bit of shadow down here underneath me. You'll notice that this side of my face is kind of dark. I have nothing over here lighting me up. That's on purpose. I have this light that's glowing over my shoulder here, and this is actually just lighting up those plants that are behind me. And again, I have that hair light. It's glowing right through here, and that hair light is up on the wall, and it's pointed directly at the back of my head, which creates separation between my head and that background back there. Should I do my hair like this? And again, this is all just a YouTube setup. This is just to help you out if you wanted to create a YouTube channel. I will create other videos to try and help you out with your Etsy store, product shots, doing your fashion photos, but just for right now, this video is trying to help you out with your YouTube setup. And that's about it for this one. Very nice. Gotta have blue hair.